What if the words, "I'll just cooperate," are the exact reason you end up in handcuffs tonight? Because a simple traffic stop can turn into a search, a confession, and an arrest in minutes. And the worst part is, you can help build that case against yourself without even knowing it. Hit subscribe right now, because what you're about to hear could save you from making the biggest mistake of your life during a stop. And like this video before you forget, because your brain will not be calm enough to remember this when lights are flashing behind you. You've probably heard people say the same thing for years. Just cooperate. Just be nice. Just answer the questions. Just let them look, and you'll be on your way. That sounds smart. It sounds safe. It sounds like the adult thing to do, but that advice can go very wrong, very fast, if you don't know where cooperation ends and self-destruction begins. In this video, you're going to learn the exact line that shuts down a consent search, the one question that exposes whether the stop is really over, the sentence you must say out loud if you want silence to protect you, and the small mistake that turns casual chat into evidence. Let me show you exactly why good people get trapped here every single day. If you drive, this matters to you. If you have kids who drive, this matters to your family. Here's the reality. You're under stress the second those lights hit your mirror. Your hands get shaky, your heart starts pounding. You want the officer to like you. You want the moment over. So you do what most people do. You overtalk. You explain. You joke. You say yes to things you never had to say yes to. And once that starts, you're not controlling the stop anymore. The officer is. Most people have no idea how fast a normal stop can slide into a fishing trip. That means the officer stops dealing with the traffic issue and starts looking for something bigger. Maybe drugs, maybe a gun, maybe an old warrant, maybe one sentence from you that sounds like guilt. I've analyzed over 200 body cam videos, and the pattern is always the same. The driver thinks being helpful will protect them, but the wrong kind of helping is what opens the door. The first thing you need burned into your brain is this. You can obey lawful commands without giving up your rights. Those are not the same thing. If an officer tells you to roll down your window, hand over your license, or step out of the car, you do it. You do not argue on the roadside. But if the officer asks to search your car, your bags, or your phone, that is a different moment. That is where just cooperate gets dangerous. You look at the officer and say this: "Officer, I will comply with lawful orders, but I do not consent to any searches." Word for word. Memorize that line. It is calm. It is respectful. It is clear. And this is 100% legal. Why does that work so well for you? Because consent is powerful. If you say yes, you just made the search much easier to defend later. If you say no, the officer may still search if they claim they have another legal reason, but now you did not hand them free permission. That matters a lot. Ohio versus Robinette made something very clear. Police do not have to tell you that you're free to go before asking for consent to search. Think about how huge that is for you. An officer can sound friendly, casual, even done with the stop, and still ask, "You mind if I take a quick look?" If you answer yes because you think the stop is over, you may have just waived your biggest protection. Now add Pennsylvania versus Mims to the picture. That case says an officer can order you out of the car during a lawful stop. So yes, you may have to step out. But stepping out is not the same as agreeing to a search. This comes straight from Supreme Court rulings. You can obey the order to exit and still refuse the search. That is the line you must keep clear in your head. Bad way. Most drivers say, "Sure, I've got nothing to hide." Then the officer searches everywhere. Finds something old, suspicious, or not even yours, and now you're trying to fix it in court. Good way. Smart drivers say, "Officer, I will comply with lawful orders, but I do not consent to any searches." Then the officer has to stand on actual legal grounds, not your fear. Watch what happens when you use that sentence. Your voice stays calm. Your body stays still. You give them nothing extra. Defense attorneys use this exact line in court because it creates a clean record. You were respectful. You were not resisting. You were simply protecting your rights. That matters if the video gets played later. And if you don't say it, the camera may show a nod, a shrug, or a nervous, "I guess so." And that weak little moment can become the whole case against you. Have you ever felt pressured to say yes just to make the stop end faster? Tell me in the comments, because once you see this trap, you'll spot it everywhere. The second tactic is the question that tells you whether the stop is still real or just being stretched. You say, "Am I being detained, or am I free to leave?" Those exact words. Keep your tone flat. Not angry, not sarcastic, just clear. Here's the trick they don't want you knowing. A traffic stop is supposed to be about the traffic issue. Your license, your registration, the warning or ticket, that's the job. But once that mission is done, the officer cannot keep you there longer just to go fishing unless they have real facts pointing to crime. In simple English, not a hunch, not a vibe. Real facts. That rule got stronger in Rodriguez versus United States. In that case, the Supreme Court said, police cannot drag out a completed traffic stop just to run a drug dog around your car unless they have legal grounds to keep you there. That matters for you because officers often blur the ending. They hand back your papers, their voice gets softer, then they hit you with, "Hey, one more thing," or "You got a minute?" If you stay chatting, you may slide from a detention into a so-called voluntary talk without realizing it. And once you stay, you may get asked for consent. Then everything you learned in the first tactic matters even more. Bad way. Most drivers say, "Yeah, sure, what's up?" Then the officer keeps them there, keeps asking questions, and the stop grows into something much bigger. Good way. Smart drivers say, "Am I being detained or am I free to leave?" Then the officer has to make a choice. End the stop, or clearly say they are detaining you and take responsibility for that call. I've analyzed over 200 body cam videos, and this is where the whole mood changes. The second you ask that question, the fog clears. Either you're free to go or you're not. If you are, you leave calmly. If you are not, then you know this is no longer small talk. It is now a legal event, and you should stop acting like it's a friendly chat. Watch what happens when a driver never asks. The officer keeps stacking questions. Where are you headed? Where are you coming from? Why are you nervous? Why is there a bag in the back? Who owns this car? Each answer gives the officer another little piece to work with. Former police officers have confirmed this works because most drivers talk themselves into trouble trying to sound normal. But when you ask that one question, you force the stop into the open. No more guessing, no more drifting, no more accidental cooperation. The third tactic may be the most important one in this whole video, because silence does not protect you unless you actually use it the right way. Listen closely, because this is critical. A lot of people think staying quiet is enough. It's not always enough. Burghouse v. Tompkins made that painfully clear. The Supreme Court said, your right to remain silent has to be invoked clearly. That means if you want that shield, you need to say it out loud. Here's exactly what you say. I'm invoking my right to remain silent. If questioning keeps going, add this. I want a lawyer. Word for word. Keep it simple. Keep it clean. Then stop talking. Why does this help you so much? Because nervous people fill silence with damage. You think you're explaining. The officer hears changing details. You think you're being honest? The officer hears admissions. You think you're calming things down. The officer hears consent, confusion, and maybe even guilt. Legal experts agree this is your strongest protection once the questions turn from traffic to investigation. And this is 100% legal. You do not have to narrate your whole evening because someone with a badge asks you to. Bad way. Most drivers say, I only had one drink, or that's not my bag, but I did drive my friend earlier. Then those words get repeated in court like they were gold. Good way. Smart drivers say, I'm invoking my right to remain silent. Then the officer gets no free story to twist, stretch, or replay later. Here's the reality. The roadside is not the place where you talk your way out of danger. It's the place where you stop feeding it. Defense attorneys use this exact line in court because it leaves less mess to clean up later. And if you think staying polite means staying chatty, you're mixing up manners with surrender. You can be respectful without becoming a witness against yourself. You can say, sir. You can stay calm. You can comply with lawful orders. But you do not have to volunteer a case file out of your own mouth. 90% of drivers don't know what's coming next. If you're still here, you're already ahead of almost everyone on the road. Drop a comment saying I'm still here, because this next part is where smart drivers separate required information from dangerous talking. The fourth tactic is simple, but it saves you from making the most common mistake of all. Give what the law requires. Do not give your life story. If you're driving, you usually do have to hand over your license, registration, and proof of insurance when asked. If you're in a state with a stop and identify law, your name may also be required. Hebel v. 6th Judicial District Court said a state can require a person to identify themselves during a lawful stop in some situations. But that does not mean you owe a full interview. It does not mean you need to explain why you look tired, why you're on that street, why your friend borrowed the car last week, or why you paused before answering. It means you give the required basics and stop there. So use this line. Here's my license, registration, and proof of insurance. I'm not answering questions. If you need to reach for something, say that too. My registration is in the glove box. I'm reaching for it now. That keeps you safe and keeps the moment calm. Former police officers have confirmed this works because it lowers tension. Bad way. Most drivers say, I'm coming from my cousin's place, and yeah, I was in a rush, and no, that jacket and back isn't mine. And I did have people in the car earlier. Then the stop fills up with extra facts the officer never even had before. Good way. Smart drivers say, here's my license, registration, and proof of insurance. I'm not answering questions. Then the officer gets what the law requires, and not an inch more. Let me show you exactly why this matters. Officers are trained to notice little things. A shaky voice, a fast answer, a story that changes a bit. Maybe you say you came from work, then later say you stopped at a friend's house. Now it sounds like you lied, even if you were just stressed. That is how small talk becomes probable cause in somebody else's report. So, you keep it short. You keep it calm, you keep it legal. That is the move. Now tie all of this together in your head. Pennsylvania v. Mims means you may have to step out of your car during a lawful stop. So if the officer says, get out, you get out. No drama. Rodriguez v. United States means the stop cannot be stretched longer than needed for the traffic mission without real legal grounds. So when the ticket business is done, you ask if you're free to leave. Burghuis v. Tompkins means silence has to be clear if you want it to protect you. So you say you are invoking your right to remain silent. Ohio v. Robinette means police do not have to warn you that you're free to go before asking for consent to search. So you never assume a casual tone means the danger is over. This comes straight from Supreme Court rulings. Obey lawful orders, refuse voluntary searches, ask whether you are free to leave, invoke silence clearly, give required documents, not extra stories. That is the whole map. Let me show you exactly how this plays out in a real stop. You're driving home at night. Lights hit your mirror. You pull over safely. The officer walks up and says, "Do you know why I stopped you?" Wrong way, you start trying to win them over. You say, "Maybe I was speeding a little. I'm sorry, I'm tired." The officer hears speeding, a late night trip, nerves, and asks, "Mind if I take a quick look in your car?" You say, "Sure, I don't care." Now the trunk gets opened, a bag gets found. Maybe it belongs to someone else. Right way, you pull over, keep your hands visible, and stay calm. You give your license, registration, and insurance. If they ask to search, you say, "Officer, I will comply with lawful orders, but I do not consent to any searches." If they keep asking questions about your night, you say, "I'm invoking my right to remain silent." If the ticket is done and they keep talking, you ask, "Am I being detained or am I free to leave?" The whole stop gets cleaner. Either they let you go or they must openly own the next step. Next week I'm breaking down what to say when an officer claims they smell weed. Subscribe right now so you don't miss it. So here's your recap. If an officer gives you a lawful order, you comply, but you never confuse obedience with consent. If they ask to search, you say, "I do not consent to any searches." If the traffic part is over, you ask, "Am I being detained?" If the questions turn serious, you say, "I am invoking my right to remain silent." And if they need your documents, you hand them over without giving away your whole story. That is your power. Not attitude, not arguing, not magic words, just clear, calm, legal choices. Stay calm, stay smart, protect yourself.